Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the books that I read in September and then also the books that I plan to read in October. So let's get into it. I'm just going to read these off my phone because I have them on Fable. Follow me on Fable if you don't, because this is where I keep all my reading logs. So I read 5 books in September. And I had some really good ones. I had like an equal amount of really good ones and also not so good ones. Sorry, Frodo just wants to say hey. And I think that he just farted. This dude has literally been farting all afternoon. Haven't you? But he's also just woken up from a nap. Okay, so the first book that I read was With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. Now, I rated this a 2.75. This one, unfortunately, just did not hit. I loved The Only One Left and Lock Every Door, but I've also read Middle of the Night and now With a Vengeance. And unfortunately, based off of my reading history, it's 50-50, either really, really good, like 5-star reads, or they're terrible and it's like a 2.75. So yeah, I was also excited about With a Vengeance because it was just the newest release and I'm pretty sure it was actually released on my birthday of this year. But nevertheless, it just wasn't that good. I personally just wasn't super involved with the story. I think that was my downfall. It just wasn't that engaging, but you know, it still might be good for someone. Just wasn't good for me. The second book that I read was The Ministry of Time by Kayleigh Bradley. Now, I rated this a 5-star and I loved this book. It was so good. I saw it all over TikTok and I think I even saw it on YouTube last year. And I saw people who either were reading it or they wanted to read it, but I never really saw much discourse surrounding the actual book. And it wasn't until after I read the book that I did some research just to see what the general consensus was regarding the book. And I was actually a little bit disappointed with the discussion surrounding the book. I believe that Kayleigh Bradley is a why can I not think? Cambodia. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I believe that Kayleigh Bradley is half Cambodian and half English. I could be wrong on that. If I am wrong, I will fact check it right here. Anyways, so I was already drawn to that. The fact that she is a mixed race author, specifically a half Asian author, because I am half Asian, in case you didn't know. And so in the actual story, there are themes and also just kind of tidbits relating to immigration, also like just racial injustice and what it's like to be the child of an immigrant as well, which I really, really connected to. And unfortunately, with some of the conversation that I saw regarding the book and specifically talking about the racial issues or the racial topics, a lot of people were really talking down on her, but genuinely I loved the book. I thought that it was very beautiful. In some ways it was also very poetic. I felt very seen and heard, even though the book wasn't mainly focused on any, you know, racial issues. It just kind of incorporated them into the character's story. Like that was her, you know, that was her background. That was like what she was dealing with on the side. But yeah, I really loved the book, and it is, I believe it's classified as like a sci-fi slash romance, even slash thriller, which I definitely agree with sci-fi. Yes, I agree with romance as well. I don't think I would agree with thriller. It does have the suspense and it does have a plot twist, however, but it's not like a thriller. It's not like someone's, you know, there's a killer on the loose and we got to figure out who the fuck it is. It's just that there was suspense and then there was a plot twist. But yeah, it was very, very beautiful, and I would highly recommend The Ministry of Time. I also was thinking the entire time that I could definitely see it being turned into a movie. It just had that feeling about it. I could see it, the actual picture in my head, but also it just seems like it is such a captivating story, and I think would do really, really well on screen. Anyways, that's just my personal opinion. Then the third book that I read was A Pale View of Hills by Ishiguro. Now, I haven't read any of Ishiguro's work prior. I have heard of Clara in the Sun, but I haven't read that book. I actually rated this a 1.75 stars. I just don't think that I was really so into the book. I don't know if maybe I just picked it up at the wrong time or what the situation was, but yeah, it just didn't really captivate me, unfortunately. I could see how it would be someone's cup of tea if they preferred a certain type of literary fiction. I was quite fascinated with it initially because I wanted to read more from Japanese authors, but yeah, that one just wasn't too good for me personally. Then the book that I read after that was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which I read in my last reading vlog, and I absolutely loved this book. I rated it a 4-star, and the reason why I actually picked it up is because I read Verity by Colleen Hoover a couple of years ago, and everyone was saying that Verity took a lot of inspiration from Rebecca. Now, because I love Verity, of course I was like, okay, I need to read this. And I will say as well, Rebecca was the first classic thriller that I've ever read. I've read so many thrillers and I love thrillers, but yeah, never a classic. And I never even thought about that until I considered the fact that Rebecca was published in 1938 and then was regarded as a classic. Nevertheless, really good book. The writing style was very beautiful, and it was one of those books where I just wanted to pick it up and keep reading, and I didn't want to stop, and I wanted to know what was going to happen. I will say that it has encouraged me to read other classic thrillers so that I can get a gauge as to what to expect from older thrillers. I don't know if it was just this book in particular or if this is just kind of the way that thrillers were written back in the day, but I did find it to be quite slow paced, but it wasn't boring. It was just that there was a lot of detail and you really got to understand the backstory to the main pardon me. You really got to understand the story behind the main character. You also got to see quite a bit of insight into Maxim, who I really did not like. I fucking hate that. Anyways, and then yeah, there were a couple of other side characters as well, which did get a lot of, they actually did get a lot of page time. So yes, I will say as well that even though Verity was supposedly inspired by Rebecca, I can see, I guess, where the inspiration was drawn from. However, I do still say that these are two entirely different books. I don't think that there is enough that has been drawn from Rebecca to say that Verity is in any way a copycat. I don't read any of Colleen Hoover's books anymore, by the way. She's really not my cup of tea now, but, and that's no shade to anyone, but like, that's just, you know, I've just changed my reading direction. Anyways, but they're just two completely different books. Verity is definitely a lot more punchy, a lot more fast-paced, shorter chapters. It is a shorter book as well, and it's probably slightly more digestible, especially if you want a quick read that is engaging. However, Rebecca, I would say I felt a lot more connected to, because I got to spend a lot more time with the characters and actually understand why they made certain decisions. But yeah, so I would definitely really recommend Rebecca. That was a really good book. And then what did I read after that? Oh, I read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I loved this book. Frodo's just farted again. Great. I loved this book so much. I rated this a 4.75. It was just shy of a 5-star. This was my second V.E. Schwab book as well. The first one that I read was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I absolutely loved. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil for me was just everything that I wanted and more, and I didn't even know that I wanted it. It was so good. I have never read a vampire novel before, so this was my first, and it has unlocked that door for me now. I've already been in search of my next vampire book purely based off of the feeling that I got from Bury Our Bones. It was just so good, and I even told Beck that she needs to read it because it was so good, and she started reading it, so there you go. The writing was beautiful. I think that V. Schwab just knows how to create art in her writing. It's insane the way that she was describing the women in these books. A man could literally never write that. Like, a man literally could never write a woman the way that a woman writes a woman. And I just felt so touched. I genuinely felt like she was writing to rip my heart out of my chest. I was so attached to the characters, and I will say as well that I was attached to one character in particular, and then as the story progressed I came to fucking hate that character. But that's not to say that I didn't like the book. It was just that the character had so much development, even though it wasn't necessarily positive development. Such good development that it was it shook me. It absolutely shook me, and now I want to read more of V.E. Schwab's work, because damn, she knows how to write. Seriously, if you've never picked up a V.E. Schwab book before, please yeah, I was amazed. I was absolutely amazed. And then I will say I didn't complete this in September because I completed it today and it's the 1st of October, but I did start in September Home is Where the Bodies Are. I finished it today. I rated it a 1-star. It was crap. It was no good. If you've got it on your TBR, like, read it if you want, but like, I'm not going to suggest that you read that. Anyways, moving on to the books that I want to read in October. So I've actually got 2 physical books here with me. These are both from the library. So the first one, I have started reading this. I'm 30 pages in. It's called 8 Dates. It is Essential Conversations for a Lifetime of Love. Now, usually I am pretty much just a fiction reader. I will read literary fiction, thrillers. I have dabbled in a little bit of fantasy, although it's not really my forte. Like, I am a fiction girl. Every now and again I will read a non-fiction just to kind of spice it up. Anyways, but yeah, so I'm excited to read more about this, just because I do like to actually sometimes read a little bit of, you know, a little bit of fact, a little bit of science-based whatever. Anyways, so I'm excited to read that. I'll keep you guys updated. And then you might have seen again in my last reading vlog, I went to the library and I picked this up as well. A Piece of Red Cloth by Leonie Norrington. Actually has, it's actually 4 different authors. I believe they would be all authors. This, I've never heard about this book, but I saw it on the new, I think it was on the new release table at the library, and I love reading Australian literature, and the fact that this is actually written by an Indigenous person compelled me to pick it up even more. So I'm very excited to read this. I believe that it's a story surrounding the relationship between a grandmother and a granddaughter on the cusp of womanhood as the grandmother prepares her for marriage. Batyani uses all means at her disposal to protect her granddaughter from the visiting Makasan Trepang fishes, but she is betrayed. Can she be saved? Like, okay, interesting. So let me know if you've read that book, because I am excited to read that book. Then the next book that I'm so excited to read as well is, I have it on my Kindle, The Mountains Sing. I'm so fucking excited to read this book. I read The Women back in June and I absolutely love that book. 5 fucking stars. I do love Kristen Hanna. But yeah, that book in particular I absolutely loved, and it made me realize that I love historical fiction that is set in Vietnam, and this is set in Vietnam. I believe that it's set against the backdrop of the Vietnam War, which is very similar to The Women. And yeah, I'm so excited. Vietnam is a place that I really want to visit, and I want to learn more about their history and also their culture. So for me, this is perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm so excited to read that. And I will also say, because I really enjoyed Bury Our Bones and I wanted another vampire fix, I did add A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson onto my TBR. Now, Beck, she also told me about this book because she wants to read it as well, and hopefully we can buddy read it together. I did put it on hold at the library, so she's just in transit at the moment. Hopefully I can pick her up soon. And I also saw Kaylee's book club on TikTok. She has read the book and recommends the book because she is a bit of a vampire girly, or to my understanding she's very much a vampire girly. So I was like, okay girl. And I think it is also lesbian vampires, which I love. Like, that is what I want. I don't give a fuck about a heterosexual vampire. Like, I don't know, get out of here. Anyways, and for my last book for my TBR, I figured that Scout, I think that's what it's called, could pick my next book. So let's see. What did it pick? Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. True. Okay, well I guess that Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine will be the last book that I'll add to my TBR for the month of October. I'm pretty sure that this book has been out for a while, to be honest with you. And I've seen really good things about it, so perfect. Well, that concludes everything that I have read in September and want to read for October. Let me know what books you plan on reading for this month, whether it be something for the spooky season that's ahead or just a good book. I'm always down for a good recommendation. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.